Japan is a country of endless exploration with something for everybody. So, what can you experience here in 1 week? Hi, it's been less than a year since our last trip to Japan, and we're back again in the land of the rising sun. Me and my wife had such a great time there in the summer of 2024 that we booked the tickets for our next holiday as soon as possible. This time we focused entirely on the Kansai region and visited Osaka, Kyoto and Nara, hoping to catch a glimpse of the blooming sakura as we arrived in late March. So, this is a day-by-day story of what we did and what we saw during our week in Japan. Join us on yet another amazing trip. We arrived in Japan at around 6 p.m. via the Kansai International Airport in Osaka. In less than an hour, we were already on our way to the Shinemamiya station where our hotel was located. This was the same place where we stayed last year, so a short evening stroll around the Shinsekai area was a nice change of pace after a long flight. Somehow, it all felt like we never left. Every store, every eatery, every sign, every corner felt incredibly familiar and comfortable. It didn't take long for us to remember why exactly the Kansai region won us over and became the focus of our trip. The peaceful, well-lit streets with a few people going about their business gave this wonderful atmosphere of an old Japanese movie where the main character wanders around the sleeping city. And even the rain didn't kill the mood as it was around 25 degrees even at 10 o'clock in the evening. As there wasn't much to do at this time of day, we grabbed our delicious first meal at a random eatery and browsed through a few shops that were still open. And from day one, I was reminded how cool the Japanese shops are. They are definitely not for everyone as you're simply overloaded with different items piled up everywhere and really need to be thorough if you're looking for a specific thing. But if you do take your time, you're bound to find a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow and even more than what you expected. Denden Town and Shinsekai don't sleep until it's way past midnight, so if anyone arrives in Osaka in the evening, I highly recommend taking a stroll through the streets before calling it a day and heading for the hotel. After a short stop at the local Don Quixote and Family Mart, we headed for the hotel. Me being the unofficial Strong Zero aficionado, I had to repeat the same dumb move I made last year and pick up a can of Japan's famous lemon-flavored alcohol beverage, which didn't taste good, at least the 9% version. My recommendation would be to either avoid it entirely or try the lighter 5% option, which is actually quite nice. We finished the day by taking photos of the night city from the highest floor of our hotel and went to bed excited about the upcoming week in Japan. A nice early morning coffee to get the day rolling and we were off. There was quite a list of things that we wanted to do on our first day in Japan, so we did our best not to waste any time and head straight to Namba, which was roughly a 30-minute walk from our hotel. This is actually the main selling point of the area where we booked the hotel. Almost every location in Osaka and the surrounding areas is about a 1-hour walk or a train ride from the hotel. So if you're thinking of visiting the Kansai region, do look for accommodation near the Shinemamiya station, as it is very convenient. On the way to the Namba station area, we strolled through Shinsekai and rode our first gachas of the trip. We should already be somewhat used to Japan's obsession with these randomized toys and trinket machines, but there always seems to be a new gacha that piques our interest, and we can't help but to insert a few 100 yen coins to see what kind of prize we'll get. The gacha rolling will be a recurring theme of this trip as my wife was looking for a specific prize and I also wanted to know what's new in the gacha department. Actually, our first destination wasn't just the Namba station. You see, my wife found out about this place called Rikuro Oji-san that specialized in Japan's famous fluffy cheesecakes that you can get right out of the oven for about 1000 yen a pop, so we had to try it out. I honestly don't think that I'll be able to eat another cheesecake in my life as this was the pinnacle, the absolute peak, the final boss of cheesecakes. The smell, the consistency, the texture, the feeling of it melting in your mouth, and of course, the flavor. Words and videos cannot describe how amazing this thing was. Instead of staying in the sit-in area of the cafe, we decided to take a stroll down to the square near the Namba station and share this amazing cheesecake under the sakura trees that were about to start blooming. This is actually something that we both were quite looking forward to, as according to the forecast, the sakura season was supposed to start right at the time of our arrival. Osaka was preparing for the upcoming expo event that we narrowly missed by about 2 weeks. So the entire city was filled with banners reminding everyone that this event was just around the corner. After our improvised breakfast that felt more like breakfast, lunch and dinner combined into one, we went to Dotonbori. I've talked about this area in the video from our last trip, but how can you spend almost a week in Osaka and not go to Dotonbori? Especially considering that we passed it almost every day when going to a new spot that we wanted to check out. Regardless of whether you're here during the day when everything is open for business, or you prefer to take a nice stroll during the later hours, Dotonbori will be as lively as ever with the atmosphere of a bustling, noisy neighborhood. We miss this feeling and we're really happy to return. And not just because of the atmosphere, Dotonbori has tons of different malls, shops, shrines and eateries to visit. I'd say that this area is the heart and soul of Osaka, encapsulating everything that makes this city great. Honestly, I don't think that you could find a better bang for buck place in terms of how jam-packed it is with things to do and places to visit. Our final destination for the day was the match between Cerezo Osaka and the Urawa Red Diamonds, two teams from Japan's elite football division, the J1 League. I've been following Japanese football in their top-flight division roughly since 2018 when Andres Iniesta, a Barcelona legend, joined Vissel Kobe, a team from the city of Kobe just northwest of Osaka. Ever since, many legends of the sport and absolute ballers have joined the J-League, turning it into a non-conventional retirement league for players from around the world. But don't let the previous statement trick you into thinking that Japan is just a Saudi league but for those who weren't invited there and don't want to make a lot of money in the last few years of their career. It is a highly competitive league aimed at raising the level of Japan's football by focusing more on developing the local talent and adding famous players from abroad, mostly to share their experience and help to elevate the teams not only on the field but also in the media. The match itself was awesome. I haven't been to a football game ever since the pre-COVID times in 2019, so it was great to feel the atmosphere and cheer along with the supporters as the two great teams collided in an entertaining 1-1 draw. I even got to chat with one of the supporters named Masa, who was 50 years old and supported the Urawa Red Diamonds for most of his life. I like these kinds of stories as they really show what football is about. The Japanese people are passionate supporters and rally behind their team, urging them to keep going no matter what. I don't remember the last time I saw a group of people shouting, banging their drums, singing songs and waving flags for almost 2 hours straight. It was truly a magical experience. And even if you don't support any specific side, you will still have a great time at the game. So I highly recommend that you visit a J-League match next time you're in Japan. Just a word of advice, if you can, buy the tickets in advance as all the decent and affordable places will be gone by the time you reach the stadium. And with that, we ended our second day in Japan by leaving the stadium with the supporters and making our way back to the hotel. And now for the spiritual part of the journey. Our good friend lives in Kyoto, so it made perfect sense to meet up during the weekend and visit some of the most incredible places in the old capital. Once again, everything felt very cozy and familiar, as if we were there just the other day. I gotta say, I like this feeling that Japan gives every time you return. Last year we only had the opportunity to experience Gion, the Kyoto's famous historical district, in the evening, when everything was closed and there wasn't a soul in sight. Which was great as we didn't have to navigate our way through a dense crowd. However, we couldn't help but wonder what this area looked like during the day, and with the Sakura season beginning, it was a no-brainer to visit Gion again during its business hours. Regardless of when you decide to enter this area, it will always take your breath away with its beauty and endless charm. We walked around the Maruyama Park, took stunning photos of the hatching sakura and the wildlife that inhabits this place. I still can't get over how beautiful old Japan is. It has this distinct style that cannot be confused with anything else. This area is a must-see location if you're ever planning to go to Kyoto. Speaking of must-see locations, Rinkacho, just 5 minutes away from the Maruyama Park, was our next destination. The magnificent entrance into the Chionin Temple greeted us with a pretty tough set of stairs as our next challenge. There was a lot of ascension during this trip, so be prepared to hear me moan about how hard things got at times. But hey, if this is what you get at the end of each ascent, you might as well suck it up and keep going until you reach the top. Which is exactly what we did, and boy, did it pay off. An almost 10th century old temple complex was at the pinnacle of the stairway. Sure, some of the buildings were rebuilt in the late 17th century after the fires, but you could still appreciate the fine craftsmanship of the time and almost feel the history floating through you. This was the general feeling that we got while visiting this area, as we realized that we were literally surrounded by ancient historical buildings, shrines and temples. And what I really appreciate is how much time and care are put into preserving all of this. Take the Kyogi Incline for example. It is an old railway track that was used to transport boats into the canal. At its time, it was the longest incline railroad track in the world, measuring 582 meters. And even though it is no longer in use, the incline was converted into a pedestrian path as part of the Kyogi Sosui Park, a popular place during the cherry blossom season. So we were literally walking on a piece of history that is better maintained than some active railroad tracks in other countries. The amazing thing about Japan is no matter which path you choose in order to reach your final destination, there will always be something interesting to look at or even try out. As we were making our way from the Kyogi Park to the Nanzenji Temple Complex, we passed by the canal water line connected to the local power plant, and though it may not sound too exciting on the surface, the path itself was incredible, both in terms of how pretty it is and how incredibly narrow it can get, giving you a slight sensation every time you come close to the edge of the trail. Next up was Nanzenji, an old Buddhist temple established in the late 13th century. It was rebuilt multiple times, with the latest rendition opening in 1909. Old Japanese buildings are incredible feats of wooden craftsmanship, but for that reason they are unfortunately very prone to fire. And amid all of this magnificence, the numerous plum, cherry and apple trees blossomed, making the entire hike feel like an episode from a slice of life anime. It's our second time in Japan, and we keep falling in love with this country. Everything is so peaceful and pleasant that it almost feels like home. Our next stop would naturally be Ginkakuji, another staple in Kyoto's temples and shrines. However, our friends suggested that we instead visit the Hachi Shrine, the shrine of 8 gods, established over 12 centuries ago. Despite it being literally a few steps away from Ginkakuji, we were the only people at the Hachi Shrine. And this is another example of why it is always a great idea to stray from the beaten path, especially in Japan. The shrine itself was amazing and really felt like a mystical sacred place where mortals connect with the gods. I made an offering at the shrine, prayed, and got a fortune telling me if my wish will become true or not. The idea is that you keep the good fortune and leave the bad fortune at the shrine. It was getting late, so we headed back to Kawamachi, grabbed a meal at Kasumi, a wonderful restaurant that I've talked about in last year's video, and then headed for our final destination. We had less than an hour before the Nintendo store in Kyoto closed, so we darted towards it to check out what one of Nintendo's flagship stores had to offer this year. Of course, I wanted to roll one of the special gachas and get a part of an old console controller, which is exactly what I did. Loved the attention to detail with the machine making sounds from the Mario titles as I put the 100 yen coins in the slot. It was completely unnecessary but a very nice touch. Nicely done, Nintendo. And with that, our first trip to Kyoto was over, and we headed back to our hotel in Osaka. Another day, another train ride. So this time, instead of heading for Kyoto city center and Kawaramachi station, our destination for the day was the Machiyanagi, the final stop of the Keihan main line. From there, we caught a tram heading to the Kibuneguchi station, located in the mountains. Mount Kurama was waiting. Of course, we could have taken the tram further to the Kurama station and reached our destination in a matter of minutes, but who said that your vacation should be easy, right? So we walked all our way through the sunshine, rain and hailstorm up the narrow winding roads to the Kifune Shrine at the foot of Mount Kurama. And believe me when I say it was worth the hike. The Kifune Shrine is a living history book dating way back to the early Heian period that ran from 794 to 1185. If you're looking for a place to immerse yourself in Japan's history and get some amazing photos in the process, this is the place to go. And you don't even need to walk, as there are regular buses departing from the station to the shrine. But we just couldn't get enough of walking, so our next goal was to ascend Mount Kurama by following the old trail used by the monks residing in the Kurama-dera temple. If you want a good test of your current physical condition, just try completing this hike without stopping, I dare you. The Kurama mountain will offer a true test of endurance and perseverance, as the steep, narrow stairs will take quite an effort to climb. But just as it was with the Kifune Shrine, the scenery will make this venture worth your while. Mount Kurama has more than 40 points of interest, ranging from small shrines to larger temple complexes with unique traits and purposes. It is a wonderful, tranquil experience that allows you to think about your life and get some good exercise in the process. After this trip, I promised myself to be more active and add some extra exercise to my weekly routine. At the pinnacle of Mount Kurama stands the Kurama-dera temple, founded in the 8th century. It is said that a Chinese monk, Jianzhen, initiated a disciple into the Buddhist path, who saw in a dream in 772 that Mount Kurama had a spiritual power, and built an esoteric temple to concentrate and control this power. Whether you believe in such things or not, one cannot deny the temple's beauty and the amazing view you can get from this spiritual place. Having explored the mountain and the ancient architecture while going through roughly 90 flights of stairs according to my fitness app, we took a nice cable car down to the temple entrance and made our way to the Kurama station. But we weren't done for the day. First, some food was in order, and going to Sushiro, a conveyor belt sushi joint, sounded like a perfect way to regain strength after our small mountain pilgrimage. Needless to say that the food tasted amazing, with delicious sushi that melted in our mouths. And to cap things off, we headed to karaoke, just like we did last year. And I know that you can find a karaoke bar in just about any part of the world, but this kind of experience can only be found in Japan, where you have the perfect opportunity to goof around with your friends while enjoying an all-you-can-drink buffet. Of course, we sang Bakumitai and Cruel Angel's Thesis. A quick stop at the local vintage clothing store and a train to Osaka ended this long and exciting day. We began day 5 by catching the train from the Shinomamiya station bound for Nara, a city famous for its temples, palaces, parks, and of course, deer. And it wouldn't be an exaggeration if I told you how much this city revolves around these beautiful creatures. There are signs, mascots, countless merchandise, as well as special food sold specifically for the deer. Surprisingly, the path that led to the deer park wasn't awfully crowded, and we got to experience this old city and peacefully stroll through its streets at a pleasant pace that allowed us to appreciate the fine architecture and how old meets new in this unique blend of historical buildings with a dash of modern sensibilities. We rolled some gacha at the local center that was aiming to become the biggest gacha and crane game center in Nara, where not only did we find traditional 300 to 500 yen machines, but also some special games where for around 1000 to 2000 yen you can win some amazing prizes, far exceeding the price paid for the roll. Not something that I've seen before, that's for sure. Walking further down the same street where the gacha center was, we stumbled upon a self-service vintage store where no staff members were overseeing the place. You just walk in, pick the clothes that you like, then head over to the back of the store and pay for the goods. Just like that. No security, no gates, nothing. Just self-checkout and a fully open space. Of course, some food was in order as we hadn't eaten anything since waking up. One of the amazing perks of staying in Japan is that you can walk into almost any eatery and have a great meal for a reasonable price, which is exactly what happened to us in Nara. A nice small restaurant that served amazing pickled vegetables and gyudon, beef bowl with rice, was just what the doctor ordered. As we approached the park area, it became clear that we were on the right track with endless deer signs indicating that the horned fellows were just around the corner. Nara Park was beautiful and the deer indeed roamed freely in this area. They interacted with the visitors, crossed the road with everyone. It was great to see these beautiful animals being taken such good care of. Though I'm not too much of an animal person, it was great to see my wife pet and take countless photos of the deer in the park. As for me, the thing that I appreciated most was just the pleasant walk through the streets of Nara and the opportunity to see a whole new place with its own identity. We made a few stops for some more gacha rolls and coffee at one of Japan's local coffee shop chains, picked up a bag of coffee beans, which makes for a wonderful souvenir, arguably being the best buck-for-buck deal out there if you want to hold on to those memories of Japan for as long as you can. One bag would set you back around 1500 yen, depending on the blend. And with that, it was time to head back to Osaka. Nara was a nice place to visit and definitely has way more to offer, but if you're going there for a single day, it's got to be to hang out with the deer. Osaka is really something else as the last bit of sunlight dies out with the day coming to an end. We walked from the Shinomamiya station through Namba and Dotonbori to a place called Amerikamura, which literally means American village. Here we wanted to look through some of the local brand clothing shops and some Japanese football memorabilia. Well, the last one was mostly me, but my wife was very supportive as I browsed through the various kits, shirts and jackets decked out in the colors of the J-League teams. The store itself was amazing with tons of kits signed by world-class players, as well as an improvised live J1 League table that gets updated every week based on the current results. After a long decision-making process and a nice chat with one of the staff members who was very happy to discuss the recent Cerezo vs Urawa game and the Japanese football in general, we made it out of the store with a few new pieces of clothing. But before leaving, I wanted to create a custom Japan national team keychain in a special machine. It was very cool as you get to pick from a variety of kits dating back to the 1990s. I went with the 2020-2022 camo kit as I thought it looked very cool. Just a few steps away from the mall where the store was located, we came across a small shop selling goods from Osaka-based shoemakers, where we picked up a pair of summer sandals made by Yosuke, a stylish Japanese footwear brand. After all the sightseeing and shopping, we wanted to grab a bite, and that's when I said you cannot spend a week in Osaka and not have tried takoyaki at least once. So that's where we went. There's actually a very nice place right in Amerikamura where they serve those delicious octopus flavored balls, up for a welcoming price of just 500 yen for 8 pieces. We finished off the day by walking back to the hotel through the peaceful night in Osaka. Starting the day in Osaka with a nice cup of coffee in the hotel dining area became a nice morning ritual for me as we were getting ready to hit the streets. We had two places in mind for the day: Osaka Castle and a sweet little parrot cafe called Kotori Smile. But first, we set our sights on Abeno with its numerous bookstores and of course the Abeno Harukas, the second tallest building in Japan. And you could definitely appreciate the sheer size of this thing as it towers over every building and can be seen from miles away. After picking up some Pokemon-themed kanji learning books for elementary school students, we made our way to the Tennoji Park just across the road from Abeno, admired the blooming sakura, made a quick stop for coffee at another famous Japanese coffee shop chain called Doter, checked out the local book hub, and began our journey to the Osaka Castle. And this is something that never ceases to amaze me in Japan. Sometimes all it takes to enter a nearly empty quiet street is a few steps from the regular touristy trail. Instead of going through our regular route, Shinsekai Namba Dotonbori Shinsaibashi, we made our way to the castle from the Tennoji Park, passing the numerous Tanimachi stations. So here's a tip. Don't just go where everyone goes. Feel free to explore, and who knows what kind of things and places you might find. It's your adventure after all. While approaching the Osaka castle, we were greeted by the peaceful Naniwa no Miya Ato Park, where the Naniwa Palace once stood, and a beautiful garden surrounding the castle. Strolling through the blooming trees was truly magical, and I recommend anyone to visit this place in early April for the complete cherry blossom experience. The castle itself was majestic, situated on a small island overlooking the surrounding area. And it's no exaggeration, you can actually see the castle way before coming anywhere near its location. I do remember a Yakuza 2 chapter where Kiryu fought inside the Osaka castle, but I never thought it was that big. We crossed the moat via a bridge connecting the castle to the rest of the city and entered the inner walls. I do like medieval castles and the history behind them, so it was a dream come true, almost a year in the making for me to actually be inside one of Japan's great castles. And even though this one was rebuilt after the war, it is still a magnificent, breathtaking venue I wish I could come back to someday. The cool thing about this place is that the castle itself is not the only attraction, with plenty of other things to do within the inner court. For example, the Kyoto Figure Museum is located in one of the castle buildings and holds a large anime and video game figure exhibition that you can attend for 1,000 yen. They also give you a special coin to play one of the museum's gacha machines that offer unique souvenirs for the visitors. The exhibition was amazing, with a showcase of figures dating back to the mid-20th century, covering the most important franchises in Japan's pop culture that have influenced the entire world. It really felt like going back in time and reliving the legendary series like it was just yesterday when they came out. All of your expected suspects were presented here. Gundam, Ultraman, Transformers, Devil May Cry, Metal Gear Solid, Fist of the North Star, Pokemon, King of Fighters, Evangelion, and many more, including some traditional figures from the Japanese folklore. I especially enjoyed the themed dioramas at the tail end of the exhibition and admired the attention to detail. It was really like watching a steel frame from an anime. Unfortunately, we weren't allowed to film any of the exhibitions, but for some reason taking photos was okay. So please enjoy a couple of select photos that we took in the museum. Despite the cloudy weather with a chance of rain, there were a lot of people at the Osaka castle, as well as musical performers playing a mix of traditional instruments from around the world. The view from the castle walls was simply amazing, making you feel like you're on the set of a historical movie. Well, if you remove all of those skyscrapers, of course. Our next stop was Kotori Smile, a parrot cafe where you can enjoy a nice cup of coffee while admiring the cute birds hanging around in the special areas. During the daytime, they also offer interactive sessions with the birds, so if you ever wanted to pet a cockatoo or were thinking of getting a feathered friend, this is a great place to see how comfortable you feel around them. Another pleasant evening stroll through Dotonbori and the peaceful neighborhoods leading to our hotel, complemented by a nice meal at the nearby izakaya, ended the day perfectly. Before going to Japan, we had a good look at what events were happening in the Kansai area around the time of our trip, so we couldn't pass up the opportunity to visit the great Capcom exhibition held in the Nakanoshima Museum of Art, NAKA for short. But before that, food. And a bit of browsing through the figure shops that we found on the way to Namba, from which we took a train to the museum. Once again, a random ramen shop offering the equivalent of 2 meals for a grown-up for just 1,000 yen per plate filled us with the much-needed fuel for another long day. I've never been to the Naka Museum, but fell in love with the area almost instantly. It's this pleasant mix of industrial buildings and tons of green plants that balance each other to create a rather comforting feeling while walking through Nakanoshima. The museum itself was a huge multi-story building that provided a nice view overlooking the Tosahori River. And now for the main attraction, the Great Capcom Exhibition. It was amazing and arguably one of the highlights of our entire trip. It is a limited time event from March 20th till June the 22nd that covers the entire history of Capcom, celebrating over 40 years of video game innovation and paying tribute to some of the most beloved franchises in the company's history. From the intro, where we see all of Capcom's greatest characters walk out and escort the visitors, to the Capcom's name being spelled out in every video game title and franchise that they ever made, you could tell how much love and care was put into this event, and it didn't feel like a soulless cash grab that forces people into the shop at the end of the exhibition. There were tons of cool interactive stands. That included booths where you could see the difference in creating video games 30 years ago and today by executing the famous Hadouken move on an arcade stick. Create some nice pixel art of your favorite Capcom characters in fun time attack minigames. State-of-the-art face capture technology where your face gets scanned and the character on the screen repeats your facial expressions, and a similar motion tracking technology. A sound theater with an insane audio system showcasing the difference between the old school 8-bit era mono sound to the latest and greatest full surround 3D audio that you can get in modern Capcom games like the recent Monster Hunter Wilds. And one of my personal favorites, a dedicated Resident Evil room, where not only will you see a side-by-side comparison of the Resident Evil games with different camera perspectives, but also get to go through a special AR tunnel where you use a special flashlight to point at the wall where zombies will appear. And that's before I even talk about the different character costumes and their history on display, showcasing how Capcom managed to achieve such fine detail of the in-game models. Fun fact, for Devil May Cry 5, the developers actually created the costumes in real life and scanned them the same way actors are inserted into games and 3D movies. There were so many incredibly cool things on display, which unfortunately we could not film due to the rules of the exhibition, so please enjoy the photos that we took from the event. And it's such a shame that filming was not allowed, as some of the exhibitions involved real-time rendering that showcase how characters and worlds were inserted into a game layer by layer, and no photo could do these things justice. At the end of the exhibition, there is a special section where you can write your message to Capcom telling them your story with the company and its games, or draw a nice fan art that might make it on a special wall. For a small fee of around 700 yen, you can get a commemorative medal with your name and date of your attendance. A very nice touch and really high quality keychain. As this was our second to last day in Japan, we wanted to once again meet up with our friend after the exhibition, so we headed for Kyoto to have one final evening stroll through this wonderful city. And once again we were in fairy tale land. The sun was shining, the trees were blooming, spring has finally come. I think it was here on the bridge near the Machiyanagi station where we took some of the nicest photos of Kyoto from the entire trip. We agreed to meet up at a place called Bangong's Tea that serves delicious bubble tea, and I recommend you try it if you're in Kyoto's Kamigyo ward. After tea, we headed to the Kyoto-Gyoen National Garden, where one of the imperial palaces is located. Even though the palace was closed for visiting, the surrounding garden and park area weren't, so we were free to explore them and take some amazing pictures of the blooming sakura trees. Everything was so peaceful and reminded me of the time we would go out for late evening walks with the same friend back home. It's as if 3 years haven't passed at all. I honestly think that Japan in the evening is the most beautiful, comforting and almost mystical place in the entire world. It's something about how the architecture, the lights, the sounds and the people you walk by create this incredibly atmospheric experience where you want to keep going and wish that this moment would never end. I believe Japan, in a way, is all about embracing everything that surrounds you and living in the moment, be it gazing at the blooming trees, walking through the night city, having a drink at the vending machine, or sharing a meal with your friends. The country really taught me to appreciate the things that are happening right here, right now. After a nice meal and a beer at a local pub, we said our goodbyes and made our way to the station. But before we made it there, we stumbled upon a Gigo Game Center that we first saw last year during our summer trip. In a way, it was a symbol of life going full circle. Later that night, it was time to pack and spend our last night in Japan on this trip. All good things must come to an end, and so did our time in Japan. We checked out of the hotel, put our suitcases in a coin locker near the Shinomamiya station, and set out to Denden town, as we had about 5 hours to kill before catching a train to the airport. There were a few things that we wanted to do. Get a few gifts for our friends, look for some cool stuff for ourselves, play some arcades, grab our last bite at one of the konbinis. The last point was the most important one, of course. It was around 11 AM when we made it to Nipponbashi, and most of the stores were still closed, so we grabbed a bite at Daughter Coffee and then started exploring the area. To my horror, the Dragon Quest Lawson was gone. I mean, completely gone. Not even a regular Lawson was there. And to think that I still have a Dragon Quest playing card deck from that exact store. Ota Road is a great place if you want to look for all of your hobby-related souvenirs in Osaka, as it houses a wide range of shops including Animate, Super Potato, Kotobukiya, Softmap, and many more. With all the shopping, time flew by, so we hit the arcades. And once again, we were reminded why Japan is an entertainment paradise for people like us. Endless floors filled to the brim with different arcade games catering to every possible audience. We had so much fun playing JoJo, Taiko no Tatsujin, and many other rhythm-based games that tested our physical and mental capabilities. And even if we sucked at some of them, it was still great fun. However, it was time to go home, so we went back to the station, got our luggage out of the lockers, and hopped on an express train bound for the Kansai International Airport. Once again, a last meal at the nearby Family Mart, and we boarded our plane. By the time we were airborne, the sun had already set, so all we could do was gaze at the bright lights of Japan from above as we were leaving this wonderful country. Japan once again won us over with its endless charm and a sense of inner peace that it gives. Some say that the honeymoon phase wears out eventually, but I don't think that this will ever happen with Japan anytime soon. Perhaps it will never end, and I'm glad that we decided to visit it again. Japan feels like a gift that just keeps on giving, with so many places yet to be explored and so many things yet to be experienced. So please, if you have the chance to go here even once, do yourself a favor and discover your next go-to holiday location. Our pickups this time were more on the practical side and aimed at prolonging the warm feeling from being in Japan, like the coffee can beans or the Maltese chocolate that I'm enjoying as I write these final parts of the script. If anything, I realize it's not the quantity of the things you bring back or the price, but the long-lasting memories that these souvenirs leave as you use them every day or consume on a cold rainy day, going back to the time when you've had the most fun in your entire life. And I know it may sound cringy, but I think there's something Japanese in this line of thought. And what about you? Have you been to Japan multiple times, or perhaps you're only planning your very first trip to the land of the rising sun? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. It was great going back to Japan one more time, and I hope it won't be the last. If you enjoyed this content, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!